Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE077, where I take old stories I've narrated before and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Undone, written by LgFatherAnthrocite. Your Majesty, I'm honored to be summoned, said Davis.
Please, David. We have been friends for many annums. You know you can call me by my name,
said the king. He sat behind a large, ornate desk, his long silvery hair blew in the gentle breeze, catching on his pointed ears. Davis looked at the elf with his high cheekbones and silver blue eyes. Davis was again reminded of the old ring trilogy from Earth.
Selenus, to what do I owe the pleasure of the audience? His Majesty is busy, and I'm merely a sage of the court, said Davis.
We have fought side by side 5 annums during the war. Regardless of your origins or your race, you are my most trusted friend and consul.
You honor me, Majesty,
Davis bowed slightly. Davis, why? Asked the king.
Why not, Your Highness, said Davis, while avoiding eye contact. Do not play games with me, Davis. I know your tricks. I'll not have it. Not on this. What reason do you have for rejecting the marriage to Selonia?
The king had a hard edge in his voice that told Davis that he would not get away with his usual shenanigans.
I do not love her, Davis said.
Preposterous. You spend nearly every meal with her. She is the only person you visited in our return from the Belligan campaign. 2 annums of combat, and the only person you know that you're alive was her. If you do not love her, I'm not king. Davis thought back to his time with the king's army. He'd been summoned by a spell, which was supposed to bring a conquering hero, but all they got was Davis. He was large, fat, slow-moving, not a hero. But as a modern man of Earth, Davis had knowledge not available to the elves. They had steel, but Davis taught them how to harden and anneal it, heat treat to be stronger, more ductile, hold an edge better and longer. He taught them how to make simple smoke bombs, how to make rudimentary gunpowder, how to smoke meat to help provision the army. Perhaps most impressively, he taught them to write. The elves had no written language. Almost all information was passed along through songs, which detailed manufacturing processes, family lineage, histories. If it was important, someone sang a song about it. Written orders were untranslatable. Only the corpsman Davis taught could decipher the commands, so no enemy could torture battle plans from a waylaid messenger. Davis did not defeat the Walkling army as a hero, but he gave Selenus' army the tools to win. He felt ashamed for resorting to schoolboy tomfoolery, hobbies, and half-remembered TV shows to try and win a war. After the campaign had ended, Davis returned with Selenus to the capital, where he met Selonia, a distant relative of Selenus. 2 years of army life had drained the fat from Davis's body, and the long days of marching and combat had left him fit, missing a few fingers and with more than a few new scars. Selonia had been drawn to him, intrigued by a massive frame, nearly 2 feet taller than an average soldier, and a foot taller than the tallest of elves. He had taught her to read and write, as a favor to the king. He also taught her math, just up to basic algebra. He had never gotten good grades in math, and didn't pretend to know more than he could do, only saying, math is a skill I barely possess, and the deep mysteries it can unlock maybe one day reveal the secrets of the world to you. But anything he could think to teach her, he would, so their lessons together would not end. He had then, with the king's permission, taught a dozen other young elves these things, and helped them establish a school for children to learn to read, to write, and subtract, and, most importantly for the elves, to sing. Selonia had been his aid through all of this, as they worked well together. After another conflict with a neighboring kingdom, Davis retired his sword, and began to administer the school full-time. It was the king who gave Davis the rank of sage, the title of the king's scribe, and made him a noble. All, said the king, in recognition of Davis's service to the crown and country. Then, in a move that shocked no one but Davis, the king announced that Selonia was to be Davis's bride. Davis, in private, had told Selonia that he would not marry her. She told the king that she had been rejected, and the king, utterly confused, had called upon his old friend to explain, leading to this very meeting. Davis tried to speak, his voice catching in his throat. After a moment, he said again, I do not love her. His voice was thick and his eyes full of tears, but he kept his gaze steady. He did not look away. The king stared back at Davis, a man that he had seen fight monsters with a club, lose part of his hand in combat, and save his kingdom from invasion and ruin. A man he trusted implicitly. A man who had just deliberately and purposely lied to his face. Selenus reached the edge of his desk and rang a small bell. At the other end of the room, a door opened and an aide stepped in. "Majesty?" "Bring me the bed of stone and call Lady Salonia here," said the king.
"Please, Selenus, don't,"
said Davis. "You forced my hand," Selenus responded. They sat in silence for a while until Salonia arrived. She seemed a little confused about why she was there until the bed of stone was brought in. She paled a little. "Do you know what the stone does? The stone is a test. It's a test they give to every monarch of this land before they can wed. 2 people touch the stone. If it glows, the marriage is performed. If it does not, a new marriage must be arranged. It is a simple spell. It merely glows when 2 people love each other. It is a way to prevent forced marriage of royalty. Lady Salonia, please touch the stone." Salonia laid her hand on the stone. After a moment, she removed her hand and stepped back.
"Please, Selenus, don't make me do this,"
Davis pleaded. "Put your hand on the stone, or tell me the reason you will not marry her." Davis swallowed hard. His mouth was suddenly dry. He reached out a trembling hand, one mangled by a bronze sword, scarred and half missing. He laid it on the stone. After a moment, a brilliant white light beamed out of the stone, causing everyone to turn away, except Davis, who stood, one hand on the stone, and his face covered in tears.
"All I was doing, you will see undone,"
said Davis quietly. After a few moments, the light faded. Salonia had been first shocked, and then briefly elated. Davis loved her, and very deeply. The intensity of the glow had been almost painful. Then she saw him, face covered in tears, barely held in sobs causing his body to convulse. She looked worriedly at him, and wiped a tear from his face. He took her hand and held it, gently in his, but did not look.
"I cannot marry her. I will die, and she'll be left a widow. I do not wish her to be so alone,"
said Davis haltingly, trying very deep to keep his voice from cracking. He had learned during his time in the army that elves mated for life. "But nonsense! You are retired from fighting. You'll not be killed, and you'll have a long, happy life together, with God's willing, many offspring to show for it," said the king, still angry at his old friend's refusal.
"No, your majesty. You do not understand. I am not an elf. I will only live for another 40 years, 60 at best. Humans rarely make it past 100 years. Salonia would be a widow for nearly 3 centuries. If she married me, I cannot force such a thing onto her."
He held her hand up to his face, kissed it softly on the knuckles.
"I am sorry, my love. I only wish to spare you pain. Please forgive me."
Lady Salonia was one of the students' favorite teachers. She taught reading and writing, and she taught the songs of the Wargling War and the Belagan invasion. Many students were often moved to tears as she said the songs, recounting the tale of a hero who saved them, a man summoned from another world who changed the course of history, a man who tried, according to the song, to throw away his heart to save his love. In the end, according to the songs, his love had found his heart and brought it back to him, and saved him instead. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.